hazard assessment? Do we have to break every 20 minutes and everybody get up and stretch?
Yeah. Where's the massage?
Who's going to be in charge of the timer? Okay, good morning, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. Is there any additions to the agenda? Tom, are you?
Yeah, I just want to, can I put on Silvis biomass, the attendance on it for it, just so that
Oh, okay. How about for your, during your report? Could I put it on
that'll
there?
work.
Any other additions? Alan?
I have one, Mr. Chairman, under my report, 4.4A.2, the Fire Services Investigation Update. I received an email from the Fire Commissioner last evening at 9:13 p.m., and I wanted to hand that out and discuss it with Council.
Any other additions? Motion to accept. All in favor? Carried. I guess we've got a 9 o'clock for public hearings. We can start on time. I move that the process for Wheatland County Council meeting as it pertains to scheduled public hearings will be as follows. Public hearing, first reading if required, considerations for further readings of bylaw for those public hearings that have been closed. Further move that the above process will take place with the absence of resolutions to go into and out of council before and after each public hearing. All in favor? Carried. Okay, with that, I'll open the public hearing for bylaw 2018-14. Good morning, Cole.
Oh, sorry. Jeez. Sorry. To redesignate plus or minus 5 acres from agricultural general district to country residential district within lot 1, block 1, plan 1612500. Staff's recommendations that council undertake the public hearing. So a bit of background reminder from the first reading. It's to redesignate 5 acres for a future residential acreage subdivision. Given the parcel size and purpose, redesignation to the appropriate land use is required prior to the subdivision of the parcel. The purpose is noted to be for resale purposes, and there is an existing dwelling on the parcel. I'll just go, it's the bylaw map of the subject rezoning area. That's the location map in the county. And that concludes my presentation for the public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions or concerns? Does the public have any questions or concerns? One more. Council have any questions? Not seeing anything, I'll close the public hearing for bylaw 2018-14. We're now back in council.
I'll move that bylaw 2018-14 be given second reading.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried.
I'll move that bylaw 2018-14 be given third and final reading.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And I'll open the public hearing for bylaw 2018-17.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a bylaw to redesignate roughly 30 acres from agricultural general district to industrial general district within the Northwest 9, 24, 26th, west of the 4th. Staff's recommendations the council undertake the public hearing for bylaw 2018-17. So the purpose of this application is to redesignate the parcel to the industrial general zoning for resale purposes for future industrial development. Although the landowner currently lives on the parcel, they've noted their intentions to relocate the existing dwelling to another location and sell this parcel to an industrial developer. Given the site's location adjacent to the highway, the landowners raised existing concerns with staff about security, privacy, and the site's better potential as a future industrial development rather than residential/agriculture. Just go down to the map here. This is the parcel. It's in the Wheatland West Highway 1 area structure plan, adjacent to Highway 1 here, and you'll see Wheatland Industrial Park directly to the west of the proposed parcel. Here's a better location map in relation to Cheadle, Rocky View County, and the highway. And that concludes my presentation for the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions or concerns? Public have any questions, concerns?
I've just got one question, just for
Sure.
Angie. When this gets changed, like when we redesignate this, and they come forward when the developer comes forward to develop this property, are there the rules from the West industrial, they just sort of grandfather into what covers this? I'm just trying to figure out if we open this piece up, does this sort of make, we've done a botched up job on the original part. Does this new piece, can we make it right, sort of? Does that make any sense?
Through the chair, I'm thinking what you're talking about is the rezoning within the WASP, right? So the West Area Structure Plan allows this to become industrial. That's already been approved as part of that ASP. So really, all they're doing here is just implementing what's already been approved in that ASP. That ASP is grandfathered in within the interim growth plan. So as long as we're not doing anything alternative to what's approved in that ASP, we're fine. If we start to veer away and we want to do different things within that ASP, under that new interim growth plan governance model, we will end up having to take those applications through the board. But this will not have to go through the board. Does that answer roughly the question, or not quite? Not quite?
Well, as usual, I'm having trouble getting my ideas out. So what I'm trying to figure out is, are we putting another 30 acres into this, to develop 30 acres? Is this exacerbating the existing problems that we're having? Or does this sort of, can we sort of start making this, the system, for lack of a better word, whole in the fact that, can this 30 acres be done properly?
When we talk about properly, part of the problem I think we have there is that we don't have an infrastructure, water and wastewater plan, or the infrastructure in the ground. That, I believe, is affecting the marketing of the land. So bringing this extra piece of land into the market, does that exacerbate the situation? Some would say yes, some would say no, but it's not our purview to control the marketing of land within the county or any municipality. However, I think what it does offer an opportunity, because, could you bring that map up again, please, Colin? When you look at this piece of land, when we've had applicants come in and look at other areas within the WASP that have already been subdivided, what has happened is, because this has been out there a long time, the previous size lots that have been subdivided are now not any good for the existing market. So the market has changed for industrial uses, and that has been a problem now. So some people have come in and said, well, I really want to do something there, but these lot sizes don't work for my use now. It did 10 years ago, but not now. So we talked a lot about it in the Planning and Development Department. And what this does is offers an opportunity for various developers to come in now and say, well, maybe I need a 10-acre lot, or maybe I need a 15-acre lot, so can I come in and subdivide that? Yes, you can. You know, because if they're stuck with a 5-acre lot and they want a larger one, it means they've got to buy 2 or 3 existing subdivided lots and then amalgamate them, consolidate them, which is extra cost and extra time. So that then doesn't work for the market when we've talked to realtors. So this is another approach to try and present land in that area that could be good for the market, but not push it into, okay, you're only going to be able to come in with this use because that fits that particular size lot. That is the problem, not just in Wheatland County, but in Foothills and Rocky View are facing, and other rural municipalities with large tracts of industrial land that have been pre-subdivided, and now the market has changed.
Any other questions? Public have any questions? One last time, any questions? Not seeing any, I'll close the public hearing for bylaw 2018-17. We're now back in council.
I'll move that bylaw 2018-17 be given second reading.
Okay, is there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried.
So I'll move third reading.
Ben's moved third and final reading. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you. And now we'll move on to, move on to first reading. Request for decision, bylaw 2018-31.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, the consultant that prepared the area structure plan was supposed to present this morning, but she was unable to leave her subdivision. It was a one-way out. Good planning, I guess, there. So she's stuck in her subdivision in Calgary, but she'll be here at the public hearing and for second and third reading to present the details of the area structure plan. But I can just go over kind of a brief overview of it. This is just first reading, so we will have much more detail, and we'll have the circulation done at the public hearing to all the landowners within the area. So this is first reading to adopt the Goldfinch Area Structure Plan. It's directly west of Carsland to the Rocky View County border. Staff's recommendation is that first reading of bylaw 2018-31 be granted and that a public hearing be scheduled for November 6, 2018 to commence at 9 a.m. in council chambers. So a bit of background is the purpose of the ASP is to provide a comprehensive, contiguous, and logical growth plan for industrial and highway commercial development in the area west of Carsland. This ASP was initiated by staff based on the direction of council to prepare an industrial/commercial area structure plan for this area. This was based on existing developments within the plan area west of Carsland that were of a heavy and intensive industrial nature, as well as potential interest in expansion of these existing facilities, as well as potential new facilities in the area. Furthermore, interest in residential development east of Carsland facilitated direction by council to prepare an off-site levy for the area. So that would be the Chara seniors community that as well facilitated the direction for the off-site levy for not only this area structure plan, but the area around Carsland as well in regards to future infrastructure servicing. So this ASP is meant to guide and direct growth and provide direction on how the county would like to see future development within this plan area. The plan area was derived from looking at the location of existing development in the area, information in the county's RGMS identifying this area as a potential future industrial corridor, and that dates back to 2011. Feedback from the public and stakeholders, as well as the concurrent development of that offsite levy. The offsite levy is a separate process being done by the Transportation and Public Works Department, so that'll require a separate public hearing and bylaw process. So council's not making any decisions on the offsite levy today. It's just the area structure plan. The way the area structure plan's been drafted is it ties to the offsite levy if the offsite levy was to be approved, but you don't need to have the specifics of what the calculations are for the offsite levy in the area structure plan. It's a completely separate process. So in terms of community consultation that was done for this area structure plan, there was an initial open house held in November 2017 at the Carsland Hall. There was a stakeholder workshop March 2018, and then there was a second open house in June of 2018. And then we posted the draft ASP on the website in August of 2018. The open houses were very well attended with about 40 plus attendees at each, who provided a great deal of feedback to the planners who facilitated them. This information was incorporated into the boundaries for the plan area, as well as the policies and overall design of the plan. If first reading is granted by council, all of the landowners within the ASP, proposed ASP, and 1 mile adjacent to the plan area would be circulated via mail with a notice advising of a link to the ASP on the website, as well as the date and time of the public hearing in chambers. Rocky View County has also requested that we circulate to their landowners, so they provide us a mailing list, so they'll be circulated as well. The vision of the ASP is to provide a framework for diverse industrial development and optimally located supporting uses that are sensitive to adjacent landowners and natural open spaces, protecting the rural character of Wheatland County. The staff is recommending option 1 as it aligns with the RGMS and MDP. The ASP meets council's direction to staff to prepare an area structure plan for this area and bring it to council for a decision. And the proposed ASP underwent significant public consultation and incorporated all of the feedback from the community into the overall objectives and policies. If first reading is granted, we would proceed with preparation for the public hearing on November 6th. So you'll see in your package, we have the Goldfinch area structure plan here and all of the mapping and kind of all the information that supports it. So it provides the policies and objectives that would shape how staff considers any applications for rezoning, subdivision, or development permits came in this area. So the area structure plan would guide how we can process and approve the applications and provide recommendations to yourselves and Municipal Planning Commission as to how you should consider moving forward with development in this plan area. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Council's wishes.
I'll move that bylaw 2018-31 be given first reading.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. And public hearing. Scott?
I'll move that public hearing for bylaw 2018-31 be scheduled for November 6, 2018 to commence at 9 a.m. in council chambers.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. And request for decision, bylaw 2018-33.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry about the delay. Kim was going to present this morning, but she's not feeling well, so she's not in today. But this is the first reading for the designated officer bylaw as per the Municipal Government Act requirements, Section 210. So as it has been amended, council needs to establish positions in order to carry out certain powers and duties of the designated officer and also the community peace officers. This is mainly for enforcement purposes, for stop work orders, unsightly bylaws, their usual duties. This is a new piece of the MGA which is now required. So it's in front of you today for first reading of bylaw 2018-33. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Wishes?
I move that council grant first reading for bylaw 2018-33.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Public hearing? Okay, I would think we'll finish the other planning matters first. Well, we got staff in. Other planning request for decision, information update request.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this report was submitted prior to some recent updates from the town of Strathmore that I'll provide as well. So basically what we're looking is just for council's, just an update to council on where the annexation's been at, because it's been largely kind of stalled for the last year, so we just wanted to provide an update in regards to that. All of the background is in the report. The most recent I just want to go to is we've been trying to work to move forward to the next steps of the annexation since November of 2017. This involved a lot of emails sent to the town in November, December, and multiple other months throughout the last 2 years. We were unsuccessful to date in receiving additional information from the town on moving forward with the annexation. Until recently, there's a new manager of development services that's come and reached out to us, and he noted that he's going to be bringing an RFD to their council on October 17th, I believe, in regards to the annexation, just to get an update and see where they're at in regards to that. So given this latest update, council can still choose to go ahead with this recommendation to send a letter requesting an update on the annexation, or if there's an alternate motion to maybe wait and see what happens with the town, that might work as well, given that things have changed. We are meeting as well with him in the next few weeks to discuss that.
Okay, did he reach out to you, Colton, or? Yeah.
That's correct. He reached out to me.
Okay, any questions? Maybe a motion accept his information then? There's no questions? Personally, I don't think we should be sending a letter to Strathmore if they've reached out and said they're going to come, so it'd be kind of redundant. All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, Calgary Metropolitan Regional Board Interim Growth Plan.
Good morning, Council. You have before you the Calgary Metropolitan Region Board Interim Growth Plan. You'll see there's two documents, but they're to be read as really one, even though they're split into two. They're called the Interim Growth Plan and the Interim Regional Evaluation Framework. They work hand in hand with each other. This, as you know, has been prepared by the TAG committee, been through the Land Use Committee, and is due to go to the board on October the 4th, this Thursday, for the board's discussion and possible approval. And its next step would be then to go to the province to determine if it's acceptable to the province. I believe it really does meet all the requirements that we were asked to put together for the interim growth plan. This is the growth plan that will be in place whilst the full growth plan is being created and worked on, and that must be completed by 2021. April, I think, is the deadline, but that deadline is for approval by the province. So in meeting with the TAG members last Friday, our work plan, our draft work plan, is to have the full growth plan hopefully completed by September 2020, so that we have enough time to move through the provincial process. So this growth plan would be in place until the approval of the final growth plan. I don't know if you have any questions, but if you have, I'll attempt to answer them, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any questions? No questions? Motion to accept his information then. Don is moved. All in favor? Carried.
I'll do the second motion if you want. I'll move that council provide a vote of support for the interim growth plan at the board meeting on October 4th, 2018.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Just before you leave, Angie, on the meeting, in the Calgary Metropolitan meeting, 5D, there was nothing in the package about Rocky View County's voting model proposal. Do you know anything about that?
I believe they have sent out the agenda package for the board meeting on the 4th. I have not had an opportunity to read it, but I'm presuming their request and amendment is in that board package.
I don't see nothing.
It's not, is,
Yeah. I haven't seen it either. It's under 5D. They're just,
yeah, that was
I-
brought to TAG's attention just last Friday by the representative from Rockaview in the TAG meeting. We weren't aware before that they were bringing an amendment or that they were not happy with the voting mechanism. They brought it up before in the TAG meeting and at Land Use Committee, and there was no appetite from either of those committees to change that voting mechanism. So they were questioned by the CMRB members in the TAG meeting on Friday as to why they were pursuing that. And the representative simply said that that had been his council's direction to him. So he'd been asked to provide the information. So that's all I know at this point in time.
Okay, thanks. We'll wait till the 4th. I got a good idea what it is, but we'll have to wait. Okay, thanks for coming. Okay, we'll move up to 1.3, adoption of the minutes, September 18th, 2018, regular county meeting minutes.
So moved.
Ben has moved. Is there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. And September 18, 2018, public hearing minutes for bylaws 2018-18, bylaw 2018-12, and bylaw 2017-54. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Unfinished business. Scheduled meetings, February 19th, Committee of the Whole and Planning and Priorities.
Mr. Chairman, we would like to, council, consider February 26th, 27th, and 28th, those dates for 2 meetings.
26th and 27th?
26th, 27th, or 28th, those, I've given you 3 dates for 2 meetings.
Oh, okay. I thought you'd give us 3 days for 1 meeting. Okay, thoughts, wishes?
February 26th, 27th, 28th. We want to be the first on the radar so that we get you guys booked in before you book something else.
Well, if it warms up, I'll be combine on that. We've got to pick 2.
Last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me.
I'll move that it's the 27th and 8th.
27, 28.
Nobody cares.
Any questions? All in favor? Oh, sorry.
Roll the dice.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. You'll send that out? Good. Okay. So, I'm thinking, is it 11:30 we're doing the budget, or can we do it now? Alan?
Safety audit results are at 11:30. The staff will come in at 11:30, so.
And that would include the budget then, too?
No, the budget we've got scheduled at 2, I believe. But we can move the
Okay.
budget up.
Okay, sorry, I
yeah.
just looked at the 11:30.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Okay, we'll just leave that go then. And we'll go down to the Reeves report. got in here. On the server there. On September 17th, we had our partnership meeting, Standard, and we had a presentation there by the Hospice Society. And they had a specific ask that they be included or become partners or come associated at the very least with Wheatland Housing Management Body. If that was to happen, I don't know what the legal ramifications are, but currently Wheatland Housing has requisitioning powers. So Wheatland County has no prerogative but to pay it. It's not an ask, it's a given. So has there been any thought, does Wheatland County support requisition powers to the Hospice Society? I guess that's the crutch of it.
Well, I'll speak first, I guess. I do. I think we've seen what community supports out here for the hospice. I think communities all across the county have shown huge support. And I mean, I'd rather put money into something that can be used here than anything else, but that's just my opinion.
I understand where they're coming from, but I'm a little apprehensive about giving them requisitioning power because that covers areas that do not use, like up that northeast corner up in my area that has nothing to do with this. If there's anything like that, it's in the Drumheller area. So requisitioning them for something that's going to happen over here might become a bit of a issue. I don't mind it coming to council and dealing with it on a yearly basis, but once they get the requisitioning power, we lose control of that unless there's something in there where that portion of that requisition can be rolled over to another area.
I'm thinking that's possible. And really, I don't think we would grant the Hospice Society per se requisition powers. It would just fall under the umbrella of the housing, and there would be 3 members of Wheatland County on that board. And I've been giving it some thought too. I don't believe, especially after the presentation, that we'll be on the hook for the full $500,000, whatever the budget was. Because they said in most areas that they run on donations and they just run along quite smoothly. We would be just the backstop for them. Being that they got the commitment that we would backstop it, it's a lot easier for them to fundraise and get the final funding. So to Ben's thing, we have before kind of divided that area of the county off when we had the ambulance requisitions. That funding always went to Drumheller. I'm thinking we can certainly have some talks with Drum or that area too, but that would be, that's certainly something to think about in the future if it does happen. Any other discussion, or would council like to see anything else? Would it like a further thing, or just a?
The only other thing that came up when they were talking about that was their discussion around the fact that Alberta Healthcare, AHS, whatever you want to call them, won't put any money into it because we meet our quota for beds, I guess they call it. So we're going to have, as a municipality or as a group, whoever, housing authority, whatever, right, we'll have to fund the whole thing. Where's the guarantee that down the road there will be money coming from AHS, so that will end up, once we get it up, if we get it up and running and get it going and it's running, is Alberta Healthcare of a mind to change their policy, or are we going to be on the hook for the rest of?
I look at it like the ambulance. Years ago, counties went together, or the municipality, or the area, the districts, I guess, is what EMSA. And they voted to support the ambulance, and they funded it, and they built it up to what it is really today. And the province didn't even give us a choice. They just come over and said it's ours. We're able enough to get a contract with them, but we run under their rules now. I look at it much the same. If the province comes, they want it bad enough, they'll take it away, but I don't think that would happen because there's not that many of them in the province. You know, the ambulances were scared, scattered around, and I don't know what the future is, but the funding comes loss of control, and I think for me and from people I've been talking to, the control thing is important in the county, because presently, right now, we have a control of the housing board. We have a list of criteria, a point system that everybody's evaluated and who gets a room. And one of them, very important one, is a resident of the county or area for a year. And that's, we do have some if we have room available, we'll make it available on a short-term thing, but that's, with control comes a price tag, that's for sure. Amber, you had a question?
You spoke to it mostly. It's just in response to your question, Ben. It didn't sound like from Dr. McNeely that if we were doing it basically, the term wasn't private that she used, but like self-funded. If we self-fund the capital and if we initially are funding the operations, it didn't sound like Alberta Health Services is going to then come in and start funding operations. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I honestly think that this is probably something we should really be thinking about. This is what local government should be doing. We shouldn't be waiting on the province to be funding this model. The feeling I get from the talk is we're going into this thing as this is going to be a self-sustaining operation. I, like Ben, trying to be fiscally responsible, don't want to be on the hook for $500,000 a year on this. But the partners that are involved in it right now, I don't think that's, and then things change, but right now I don't think that is a worry or a concern because, but I think we have to start doing something to get it on the books that, you know, that this is important, and this is what, you know, this is, it's, and I know there's going to be challenges because I don't think this model has been done in Alberta before. So there's going to be, you know, there's going to be all sorts of questions and that kind of stuff. But I think we have to, this is one of these things I think we as a council have to get involved in.
So just for, throw something else in the mix, this proposal that, I don't know if it's coming up later today, that came from a doctor down in your area, in the Gleason area, looking at that school down there and a portion of that school. If you want to carry this a little farther, and if we're going to get involved and start putting money into something, is there not a possibility there to make that whole process work with that clinic or whatever it is that they're talking about down there?
Thoughts?
Being that this is a new thing, the requisition part of it, I'd rather have it voted on budget that we give every year, or even every 5-year commitment or something on that level, because that requisition, by the sounds of it, it's a permanent thing. And I'm not saying that I'm not comfortable with that right at the moment, but I'd like to see it moving forward and operating and then kind of work into that. I think that would be the, in my opinion, the most comfortable way for me. I'd feel better about that, to see how it's going to work. Maybe the province will step in and do something, maybe they won't. At least we'll know once we get it up and running, and then gives it some options, I guess. But definitely, like, not just a one-year commitment, I would say a substantial amount of years.
Tom?
Just to follow up with on what you're asking. So are you suggesting some sort of like a pool of money that we set aside, like, i.e. CRISP, but for health or for medical or whatever you want to say, and then put a committee together to figure out where this money is going to go? Is that sort of where you're going with this? I'm just
I'm not sure where. I'm just saying that the presentation that Amber got, or the one where she went down there with that Dr. Wong or Wu or whoever it was. Dr. Fair. What's that? Dr. Fair. Fair, okay. Where did I get Wu from? Wong is her maiden name. Oh, okay, sorry. And they're going into if they go into that school and do anything, and they only do it with a portion of it, you've still got an albatross sitting down there that you got to deal with. So if we're looking at doing something in the health system and tying this stuff together, let's take a good hard look at it, not piecemeal it here and here. And that's what I'm getting at. And I know Jason doesn't like the idea of it being down in the Gleason area, but that's, if you're going to grow that community, that's one way of doing it. That's a new.
If we're talking about it right now, I think even if we go back to, and quite a few of us were there, like what Roger Brooks was talking about, you need something that differentiates an area if you're looking to like bring visitors or bring new residents. And I honestly think something like this that could serve all of, like, it actually could conceivably serve a large portion of the county, and it would differentiate that area. And I think you would draw in residents just based on the services that would be available there. It already has like unusually high levels of medical services there for the size of the community, and this would just be expanding on that. And I do think it could differentiate it. In terms of financial commitment, I would hope to see it being a like a very financially independent operation as well, because if you had multiple stakeholders that were utilizing the facility that could pay for operations, like I don't necessarily see that that's somewhere that the municipality needs to like be requisitioning or be funding. We did have an RFD where we approved up to $50,000 just for like short-term basically to mothball it. I don't think that was in the RFD. Well, I think it was in the background, like for security, any safety issues, very basic utilities. And actually when we were in there, even the basic level that the utilities are on, like the space that they're looking at using was comfortable just at that. There was areas that were not, but that area was comfortable. So it wouldn't necessarily be a big financial ask for it. I realize it is an albatross. When we looked at it as well, all of the heating system is zoned. So you have like pneumatic dampers that they can open and close to reduce sort of the temperature in some areas. And also it's quite easy to zone based on like where you could block off areas, and that would be good for security too, because then if you were doing like a sweep when you're closing the building, you would have a portion of it that you wouldn't need to check. So
Go ahead.
The Gleason Clinic is our home doctor, and I think it's important to note that the majority of the patients there aren't county residents. And I mean, which is fine. I'm more than happy to share that service. Like if we want to put money into the Gleason School and have a care facility like that, we have to realize that there's probably going to be a large number of non-county residents taking advantage of that service. And I'm not willing to put money into that service unless the other party supports that. And I think it goes back to that relationship that we were trying to establish. And to me, this is out of the question until we have that relationship. Like, there's no point of opening that can of worms if they aren't coming to the table. Because I would say at least 70% of the people that use that clinic and would use this service would be non-county residents.
I'm thinking when I listened to the Roger Brooks thing, it was to provide more infrastructure to enable groups to come in and make use of it. So if the school's there, I think it's there, we know it's available, we've let it out, let them come to us and see if they want to expand the clinic, or if it's just 5 to 10 or whatever it is. It's up to them now, the private people, to come and make a pitch for it. If we give it to them rent-free, or if we buy new doors, whatever it is, we can discuss it then to fit their needs and their wants, if that makes any sense. For me, anyway. Yeah, it probably is an opportunity, but we can't do everything. We can provide the infrastructure basic, and I think we've done that by hopefully securing the building. My vision of the Hospice Society is that we would just have a motion of support and let it see how it falls on the board of the Wheatland Housing body in conjunction with hospice and the other municipalities, and see if a deal, maybe it's not even, I'm thinking if you want to grant, if with extra requisitioning powers, I don't know how it's going to shake out, if we need ministerial approval or if we just include it in the budget, or I'm not sure. But if this council doesn't approve of it, or in principle, then we just stop it now. I guess that's my quandary. Go ahead, Amber.
I'll put a motion on the floor that Wheatland County support Wheatland and Area Hospice Society in principle, and just wait for further details regarding like what the funding arrangements might look like.
Okay. Would that include that you would support the councillors on the committee of the Wheatland Housing Management Board to, I guess, enter into negotiations, or I don't know how to.
Yes, if you could add that to my motion.
Okay. Does that make sense, Margaret? It's snowing more, so close the blind.
Just explain what you mean when you say having councillors sit on there to negotiate. Because what Amber, her motion is in principle, which means that any financial issues have to come back here before it's decided.
I think you'll be kept up to date on what the package would look like before we vote on it. I think that would only be fair to all the municipalities involved.
So if the motion could outline that the councillors that represent Wheatland County on the Wheatland Housing Management Body Board would continue to represent Wheatland County for the Hospice Society, but that any major financial decisions will be brought back to the council.
Okay, does that make sense to everyone? All in favor? Carried. Carried, sorry about that, Margaret. Any other questions on my report? And before I move on, I sent an email out this morning. There's a STIP grant. I'm thinking that's for water to go to Rosebud from, I don't know what STIP is. I sent it all to you on an email. During the grand opening of the treatment plant in Standard, I had a chance to visit with, I'll have to open up the email. Sorry. Yeah, Keith. And he thanked the county profusely for seeing this project through. He was very impressed with the way our municipalities and the group got along with each other. He says, you got something very special here. And they also said there maybe is a chance to get this water down into Rosebud. There is a grant thing there. But I'm thinking we should look into it. I just thought Wheatland Regional just made an application or sent a letter, but really corporations can't get grants. It has to be a municipality. So I'm just thinking maybe we should get staff to look into this process, see if we have to do it or if Wheatland Regional can do it. I'm not sure of the process, but I'm thinking we got a couple weeks, 3 weeks maybe to, I think it's the end of the month. And just have staff look into it, the possibility if this is something we want to move down.
Mr. Chairman, if you could defer that, we can bring back some recommendations this afternoon,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Okay, we'll defer that. And one other email I forwarded it was from CP Rail and the Christmas train. I'm thinking that's could be a fair big thing for Gleason. The food bank and all. They're looking.
Drive by, they never stop, because we always sit there.
If they are stopping, they are asking for security and fences and stuff, food banks and stuff. I'm thinking this is a huge opportunity for us to invite our neighbors there and yeah, they have a food bank and the whole thing. I'm thinking, I don't know if they got the email. I don't know who to forward it to, but I'm wondering if we could. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, typically on this, they'll give more details. So once we get the details, then I was going to forward it on to, I don't have any details on when they're coming exactly and that.
That's right.
So once we get those, we can certainly forward that. But
Okay.
yeah.
So, did you get the original email then?
I did not get the original email, but I did get your forward that you forwarded
Okay, I'll
to me.
keep forwarding when I get them. Do you get anything from him?
Yeah, I've got correspondence from him in the past when we had
Okay.
the fires and that last year, so.
Because in the past, I was getting them weekly, grain movements and stuff, then they kind of dwindled off, and now I got this one, I just out of the, which is good, I'm not complaining.
If you like, I can certainly contact him and say, send the correspondence to me, and then I could send it to council if you
I
prefer
can
that.
keep forwarding, I
Okay.
was just wondering how diligent I should be.
So the email they sent us, is this on their stop list that they're going to do that, or are they waiting for a response to see if we're interested in participating somehow
The
with
way
it?
I interpret it, and having been involved in this twice before, is that they determine where they're going to stop. Just have to provide secure fencing, things
So
like that.
this is one of their stops.
It can change, but likely it will be, yeah. It's a good possibility.
Yeah, let's have a motion that Ellen, our CAO, contact them, tell them we're very interested. And it would be better to keep the contact going through them to provide dates and all that kind of stuff.
Maybe further, if council could consider just the council fully supports this event.
Yeah.
That's okay, because there is going to be a little bit of cost involved. It's not an issue. We can handle that in the budget, I'm sure, so that'd be great.
Yeah, I think, and our peace officers and whatnot, for sure. Maybe the fire departments, they always like Christmas, too. It's snowing more.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Did you get it all, Margaret? Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. And then we'll leave this tip grant out. Any other questions? Minutes there too of the board meeting of Wheatland Regional. We did have a grand opening. I thought, yeah.
Very well attended.
I think so, yeah. Our new MLA was there, or I guess the new, MLA in our new electoral division, whatever. Municipal, that's not, MLA for provincial was there. And, yeah, they had it all cleaned up pretty darn nice. I was quite proud of it. After 10 years or 12 years, some things do happen. So if there's no other questions, I'll move my report. All in favor? Carried. And Deputy Reeves' report.
My report is on 42A. Biggest thing, I guess, for the September was the September 11th, which was the NAP meeting night plus the fire night. So I tried to juggle between both. Didn't quite make it all the way there, but I got it there. Yeah, any questions or anything I've done? Please ask. If not, I'll just move my report as presented, yes.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Division 1, Councillor report.
The only thing I would like to add is I forgot to put Roger Brooks on there, but see Amber's report and you'll get the gist. So, yeah, ditto. Other than that, I will move my report as presented.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Councillor 2, Division report. No, Division 2 Councillor report. How's that sound? Go ahead, Amber.
So my report's in the package. Just a couple of things to note. The conference I was at for the Drug Task Force was really interesting. There was Dr. Fiona Clement was one of the keynote speakers, and she spoke a lot on cannabis. She's been the lead researcher for Alberta Health Services on the legalization, so she's done a really big kind of a meta-analysis of the research that is out there in places that have previously decriminalized or legalized, and looked at that. And it was interesting. She talked about how her perspectives on cannabis have really changed as she's done the research and gotten a more fact-based or evidence-based opinion on things. So it was interesting hearing from her. And then a gentleman from Edmonton was the other keynote, and he was speaking on neighboring, like the lost art of neighboring. And he had some really interesting ideas. And I think there's actually potential there for activities that possibly municipalities could promote that would actually be more fiscally responsible. So for example, he was asked to attend a meeting with Edmonton municipality when they were talking about senior transportation. And he said in his research, when he spoke to different therapists, a lot of people that were going to occupational therapy or things like that were brought by their neighbors. So he thought he was pretty strategically brought into this meeting by Edmonton because it's a pretty low cost way of trying to facilitate, like putting some support into a program, but where you're actually drawing on your resources of your residents to help other residents. So I thought it was interesting, and there's some potential there. And then a lot of the other coalitions just spoke on projects that they're doing, some examples of that. So I brought back some new ideas as well. And it isn't in my report because the meeting occurred after our reports were due, but Donna and I attended the WFCSS meeting, and the board had an opportunity to just look at some options and what we're going to do about the office space with the need for the county requiring increased office space in the building. Certainly what we heard from the board is that the preference would be, if possible, to stay proximal to this building and this location. Part of the rationale is she provided us some statistics on how many people visit, and already in 2018 there's been, I believe it was just under 100, maybe 99 residents had visited, but some of those are very regular visits, like they might be coming weekly to the office or that kind of thing. And a number of the residents don't necessarily have transportation, so they may be coming here with somebody that's paying their utility bill or has a tax question or is here for another purpose. So those are things that will have to be taken into consideration. Sort of where it's at is the board tasked the CAO with just investigating options and what the cost might look like for that, and we don't have that yet. It will take a little bit of time. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Okay. If there's no questions, I'll move that we accept my report.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Division 3.
Pretty much the same as everybody else's. Just want to talk a little bit. I'm quite proud that you guys have already brought Roger Brooks' name up a couple times, so that means that he did leave some kind of impact. I'm sorry that the turnout wasn't as good as I had hoped, but the people that were there, I think, really got a lot out of it. He talked a lot about Strathmore, so I wish that, you know, Strathmore, it would have been very beneficial for them to be there. Does anybody have any questions? If not, I'll move my report as read.
After listening to him, I had another appointment on the next day when they were down in Drumheller, and I would have liked to have gone to the one in Drumheller and seen what that one was like, but he was a good speaker.
And I would just like to say you did a good job of getting everything facilitated, so.
Yeah. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. And Councillor, Division 4, Councillor report.
My notes are in front of us. The only thing I've got for, I'd like to, on the 11th, we did the Silvis Willow tour and the biomass out at Nightingale Country. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so which I found very interesting. I still wrestling with the fact that you can't dump your neighbor's sewage on your property, but we're going to allow 200,000 people's sewage to be dumped on our property. So I'm still struggling with that one. 1.2 million. Well, they can't get them all out there, right? Like half of it's going to. But anyway, so but it was very interesting, and the research that they're doing is if they're giving us the straight goods about like the heavy metals and that kind of stuff that are in the soils and that kind of stuff, which they claim there's very, very, very little of it. I'm thinking we should. It's a good thing for us. I think, and I don't know. I'm going to task, not at this time, but I'm going to task staff down the road that in any agreement that we have with the Calgary Metropolitan Board, the fact that we are allowing the city of Calgary to use our product to get rid of their waste, and I mean, it's a benefit to our farmers, and granted, but I know that with the way Rocky View and Foothills feel about the city of Calgary, they're going to be coming out to us. They're not, you know, Rocky View, I don't think will probably even allow them to do anywhere in there just because of there's some perceived animosities, I believe, between the municipalities. And basically, I would like to ratify, if we can get council to ratify our attendance, the councillors that were there, and the mileage that was in. So I don't know if that's the proper way to do it, but yeah.
Make a motion.
Make a motion that the councillors that attended the Silvis tour be reimbursed for it. So.
Okay.
And with that, so I guess I'll make the motion.
Make that motion first. Yeah. Any questions on this Silvis tour? All in favor? Carried. And then.
And with that, I ask you to accept my report as submitted.
Okay. Any questions for Tom?
Not a question, just a comment on the Silvis. I drove by there yesterday, and all that stuff that we saw on the field application was being spread and worked into the ground. They already did the first quarter to the east, and then they were working on the west one yesterday as they were out there. No, I went by there about 30 kilometers an hour with the truck and couldn't smell a thing.
Window open?
Yeah, I had a big truck. I was going slow. I had my stuff in the back.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. And Division 7, Councilor report.
Yeah, it's there in front of you. Just a correction, Margaret, on the, down just about to the bottom on the September 28th SAWA board meeting in Olds. It was the board meeting in Olds, not the Olds officers. It shows there that Olds officers remain as last year, and the board meeting was in Olds. And the officers of SAWA remain as they were last year. They're not the old ones, and they're not the ones from Olds. But other than that, everything's in front of you if you have any questions.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. That 20-minute break's up. Okay, break time. Okay, whenever you're ready, Helen.
Yeah, so my report is attached in the agenda package. I don't have any additional information aside from to let you know that I won't be here Friday. Planning a little family Thanksgiving on Friday, so.
Okay. Any questions? Motion to accept. All in favor? Carried. And a fire service update. That's this letter you passed out.
So I'll give council a little bit more update on this. So I phoned the fire commissioner's office and talked to Mr. Jess, the fire commissioner for the province of Alberta, yesterday morning. And he said he needed to talk to his assistant deputy minister before he sent me a response in regards to where they're at with the fire service investigation request that was made a couple weeks ago. And so I received this email that I've handed out at 9:13 last night. Thank you for Reeve Kester's letter requesting that the Fire Commissioner's Office, number 1, review and provide comment upon your proposed procedural fire bylaw. 2, assess the county's ability to meet all liabilities and responsibilities and adhere to all or exceed all provincial and federal legislation, codes, standards, acts, and regulations. And 3, assess the county's municipal bylaws, agreements, and policies as well of the related fire associations and village fire departments. All 3 requests together will require significant dedication of time and resources from this office and yourselves, and may reach beyond our scope and our capacity. However, as you have set out these requests in discrete packages and in rationale and logical sequence, I will commit at this time for our staff, including Regional Technical Advisor Tom Harnos, myself and our colleagues in the ministry, to undertake a review of the proposed bylaw during the month of October and provide comment back to you by November. Once that has been completed, we will have a better understanding of some of the concerns of the county and its partners, and thus be in a better position to determine in discussions with yourself whether the OFC or Officer of the Fire Commissioner will be able to assist you further on the 2nd and 3rd points. Making these decisions one at a time will allow the Officer of the Fire Commissioner to plan our work. Should we decide to proceed with one or both of these additional phases for the county, to work with you to jointly and create a scope of document covering any additional work by the OFC on behalf of the county, or create scope documents that will guide any work by others on these topics. Please advise if this approach will work with the county and your partners at this time. So we've taken a review on this morning as staff, and we feel it's a logical process that the Fire Commissioner's Office has identified, that we look and review and provide comment on the proposed fire bylaw first, and then go from there on the next step. So I'm just looking for council's thoughts and input on that, and perhaps a motion in regards to this moving forward plan. So.
Okay. Questions, comments?
I agree. We were asking for a lot, and I agree that it's logical what they've proposed, like to look at the bylaw first. And to me, that's the priority right now, and then hopefully we can engage them in like a larger scope of review.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
I like I like what he's set out here. I think if we follow through with it, we'll finally end up with something that we're not fighting about all the time. So I think we move forward with it.
It said to provide, advise of this approach will work. We'll be certainly bringing it up at the committee meeting tomorrow. Would that be enough notification to the fire services in the county? Associations, I mean?
That would be a council decision, but I would suspect it should be when Councillor Link and Councillor Wilson and myself and Mrs. Lucas meet with them. I guess this council need to decide if you're okay with this first off. I mean, we're the ones that sent the letter supported by the other associations, so I think we need to kind of lead the support.
Wishes? Any more questions? Go ahead.
I'll move that we accept the letter from Fire Commissioner Jess, and that we move forward with having them review and provide comment on the proposed fire bylaw, with hopefully increasing the scope of their investigation following that step.
And would you include that you'll provide this information to the partners
Absolutely.
at tomorrow night, or at your first opportunity when you meet? Okay. Any questions?
So your motion is just to do number one?
Yeah.
But we accept their proposal here as a reasonable follow-up.
The 2 and 3 were our proposed steps,
Yeah.
and they're saying they'll do 1, and then after that, they'll be able to determine if they can expand the scope and continue on.
So you're-
At least
you're-
that's my interpretation.
So the motion is saying that we're in agreement with the letter and we're going to start with number one?
You bet.
Okay, but we're not dismissing the rest of it?
No, absolutely.
Margaret, you had a question? Right. Yeah,
So the move forward as the fire commissioners laid out. That's,
Right.
yeah, that's what you're saying. Okay.
yeah,
Just to make sure, yeah.
Sorry for the confusion.
okay. Everyone square? Yeah. All in favor? Carried.
Could we just maybe forward that letter prior to our meeting, just so they
Yeah.
can
I'll
have it
forward
reviewed
that
prior?
as ASAP.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one other thing that just came
Sure.
up across my desk. The city of Calgary has received in excess of 20 centimeters of snow overnight, which has resulted in a significant amount of traffic and commuter problems. We have opened the Emergency Operations Center and activated the municipal emergency plan within the city of Calgary, just to let you know. So at this time, I don't know that there'd be any support we'd be able to lend as Wheatland County, but just to let you know, that's the situation. So.
Okay. And request for decision, corporate and financial services report. Be expecting.
It's always good to have excited people about corporate services, so. Good morning, council. So on
morning.
page 335 of your agenda is my monthly report.
Any questions?
I noticed, I noticed that everything's going down. every time I go to the store, everything's going up, but the regulated rate for the kilometer of railway is going down, like, everything costs more money, like, how does that work?
So through the chair, there was a significant number of changes in the assessment and the way that kind of works. So railway is kind of going to a regulated rate. So we anticipate that the assessment values for those railways on private properties will go lower. Just kind of a suspicion that we do have, or kind of an expectation that we do have.
No, I find it, this is just sort of a side note, probably not even, I had a discussion with, Suncor just signed a contract with one of the rail companies to ship 100,000 barrels of oil a day out of Fort McMurray. And so theoretically, I would think the trains are busier, they should be worth more money, but that's just me.
I also announced a liquid gas facility in Kitimat too that's going to require significant pipelines.
Because the indigenous people. Beg your pardon?
Any questions for Brian and his report? I'm looking for a motion to accept. Tom's moved. All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, bylaw 2018-25.
Yes, so on page 337 of your agenda, we've attached an updated FOIP bylaw. So this kind of designates the coordinator and the head for the purposes of the Act. So for the purposes of the Act, the general manager of corporate and financial services will be designated the head, and the records management clerk will be designated the FOIP coordinator. Both of us have undertaken a 3-day course in the training, so we're both very knowledgeable on the topic.
Okay. Council's wishes?
You want to move first reading of the bylaw?
Yeah, I think so.
I'll move that.
Ben's moved first reading. Any questions? All in favor? Carried.
I'll move second reading.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. And permission for third reading?
I'll ask permission for third reading of bylaw 2018-25.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried unanimously.
I'll move third and final reading of bylaw 2018-25.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, Human Resources Policy, Section 6.3, 6.4, and 6.5.
Yes, so on page 341 of your agenda package, we've done some extensive work on the human resources policy. So we've went through and we've updated them. We've updated them to fall within the new leaves within the employment standards. And we've clarified policies for staff as well and defined some items as well. In here as well, we've also included the sections that we have done. So currently we've done section 6.1, and we are moving towards updating all sections. It's just we're kind of strategically picking the sections that we're updating. So they all have zeros beside them right now for the page number. This is just kind of the general overview. What we did as well is that we have the new policies in there, and we've also included the old policies. So the current HR policy, context within policy. So those are just the the highlighted ones are just the comparative ones. So you'll notice that it's a lot more detailed. Things are more defined and clear for the employees and the employer.
Any questions? Council's wishes.
I'll move that council approve revisions to policy 6.3, 6.4, and 6.5 under the human relations policy.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Request for decision, amendment to joint use agreement, Strathmore K-9 and Regional Recreation Facility. That's what I thought when I said it, but a K-29 I should have said.
In the RFD, I should have had K-9, so.
Yeah.
It is a Strathmore Motor Products facility. So in here, there was an addendum. I believe it's the school division wants to put solar panels on top of the roof. So what I have included in here as well for council information is resolution 16-10-40. So that was the original agreement signed with the two parties.
I'll move the council approve this, the addendum to the K-9 school and regional recreation facility, and further that the Reeve Chief Executive Administrative Officer signed the agreement on behalf of Wheatland County. When I first read that, I thought, ooh, and then I got through it and I thought, oh, they're going to pay for everything.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. And request for decision, bylaw 2018-23.
Yes, so this will be on page 456 of your agenda package. So what this is an updated records retention bylaw. So this bylaw kind of gives staff and administration clarity on when to dispose of records. We currently do have one, but this specific table has citations, the legal citations behind everything. So the previous citation or records retention schedule did not have those. So this kind of gives us a little bit more comfort and clarity when we are legally supposed to hold and dispose of records.
Okay. Any questions? Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Tom?
I'll move second reading.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Permission? Scott?
I'll move that council vote to hold third reading on bylaw 2018-23.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried unanimously. And Ben? Ben's moved third reading. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Is Angie coming in or? Okay, we'll go to. Okay. Correspondence. Might as well wait for it.
4 months, that's what it's been, 4 months. That is really sad. And we live here, why? Oh, yeah, and we want to.
Because we've got a great country, government that loves us.
Yeah.
4 months, you don't need, we want to cut down our carbon footprint. That makes a lot of sense.
Urban's out the window as soon as the snow flies. Everything's off the table.
Stop global warming in its tracks.
But if you're hiring a kid to shovel your snow, you have to pay $15.
Something has stopped global warming in its tracks.
Yeah. We're going to do information. No, no. We got a letter from Drumheller RCMP. Report.
I love the way they make their reports.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's going to go up or down.
Got a thank you letter from Town of Drumheller.
Today, that Nehill and Drumheller got some flood funding there. Nehill, I think, was in the 3 million or 4 million, and Drumheller was 600 and some thousand dollars. Was,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Good.
so they'll be happy with that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Letter from Fortis, Alberta.
You all know that I'm that close to getting those lights
That close?
Okay. A letter from Municipal Affairs. An MSI. That's the last one. Is there any questions on any of those letters?
I'll move we accept them as information.
Ben's moved, sec is information, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Oh, just in time for transportation infrastructure report. Or transportation. We'll go down to planning, community, and protective services. How's that one?
That works better.
Okay.
Thank you,
Whenever
Mr.
you're
Chairman. You have before you my report from the various departments, planning and development. You won't see, shouldn't see agricultural services in there now. I think that should be under, should be under Mike's report. We have protective services, emergency services, community services. Nothing new to add to this, except that community services, I met with Dave yesterday, and we do have some, a little bit more feedback from Gleason on the discussions with them on the playground equipment, and we will be bringing more information to you in the upcoming Committee of the Whole meeting in November on that issue, just to update you and look for some direction from Council. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for anybody?
Yeah, I just have a question on the old Clooney Hall, if there's been any movement there.
Through the chair. So the old Clooney Hall, what we're doing is we're gathering some information regarding costs. So you will have some options as to which direction you want to take that in once you have the costs as to what you want to do with it. You have a couple of different options. That's going to come hopefully to the Committee of the Whole or the Planning Priorities meeting. Both are just in the same week in November. It's a bit difficult to gather some of those costs, but we are having difficulty, not just, it's a similar situation in other areas where you have to have your quotes on what you're going to do on those buildings for removal or repair, etc. And there apparently seems to be a lack of companies within the Southern Alberta region who are even prepared to bid on that. So I know that Chris and Mike are having a little bit of difficulty getting those quotes and costs, but we will hopefully have that to you by mid-November. We do not own that building or the land at this point in time.
Okay, Ben?
Under your safety codes, just an explanation, 7 development permits from 2017 are without proper permits. They've got their development permit, but they haven't followed through with any of their, what's that?
So one of the things we're doing is checking up on the development permits that were issued in 2015, 16, and 17, to determine whether they've moved forward and met their conditions, or even moved forward and built the structure. Because a development permit, they have to achieve certain conditions met in the first 12 months, and they have to start construction in the first 12 months. They have 24 months to complete all conditions and all construction. They can ask for an extension. That would have to come back to MPC if it's a discretionary use. It can be handled by the development officers if it's a permitted use. So what the data you're starting to see in some of the reports is us doing some historical background research, bringing you up to speed on what has been approved and what has then not been followed through on, or what is now becoming enforcement issues within the county. Yes.
Any other questions?
Just on the upcoming public engagement, the CMRB open house in the Cheadle area somewhere, do we have any idea, like near future, or when do you foresee this being done?
So in the TAG meeting last Friday, so the CMRB now are wholly in control of the TAG meeting, and they're telling us what we're going to do moving forward. So they're putting a work plan together. They've done a draft, and they've sent it out to the members of the TAG to review it as to how they're going to achieve public engagement, what role each municipality plays, what role they play. So far, what they've said to us is when we go out and do public engagement, so they want each municipality to do their own public engagement, but they want the CMRB to have their information on their boards at each open house about what the CMRB is, what their role is, what the larger growth plan is. So once they've created those boards and they've finalized the draft plan, which I presume will be coming to the Land Use Committee and probably the Servicing Committee, if not the board itself, for final sign-off and approval, because it's not up to the TAG Committee to determine whether the work plan is adequate or the timeline is adequate. So that will be coming to you then. Once that's in place, then we can determine when we're going to go out to Cheadle and the various other areas within that plan area.
Any other questions? Just curious if you've picked up site for the open house between Wheatland and Nehill.
I don't think that's been determined yet. I think what is going to happen is they're going to be two separate open houses. There'll probably be one in Rosebud and one in Nehill, because they've intimated to us that they don't want to come over to the open house in Rosebud. So then there's going to be two open houses. And that's not unusual in my work. Often that happens when you're dealing with cross jurisdictions, is one jurisdiction doesn't want their residents and taxpayers to go over to the other jurisdiction because they feel that perhaps they won't be comfortable to do that. So they usually do hold two open houses.
Okay. Any other questions? Motion to accept. Donna, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, Angie. Transportation, agriculture. Morning.
Morning, Council. Okay, for my GM of Transportation Agriculture report, you have that in front of you. If there's any questions on any of the details in there. Just an update on a couple ongoing projects here. We have Range Road 270 Boundary Road. Its completion is anticipated middle of October. They're just kind of doing some final cleanup and graveling of that right now. Paving program is I glanced over there, but I say paving program is likely going to be delayed this year, if not even started this year. The contractor has been delayed in their previous position, job, so they're already 3 weeks back in that one. I don't see them coming here until late October, which will probably not work well with the weather. So we're probably looking at an early spring paving job for that. They'll come back in the spring and finish the job on that, but that is likely the scenario that's going to occur on that. And yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
Just questions. I know I'm probably sounding sound like a broken record, but is there any update on why there was a water truck pumping out of a private pond, or if it was a private pond down on 215 J. Anderson's Road?
Yep. So the operations staff has investigated that with the landowner. And I don't have feedback yet on the actual occurrence. We don't have it finalized, I should say. There is actively back and forth on there.
Okay.
So if you like, I can bring an update on that for next council meeting, just to
Yeah,
let
even
you
if
know.
you just shoot us an email, it probably doesn't have
Okay,
to
that's
come
probably a better venue for that. Just I can update council through a correspondent email.
Yeah, just please, because Jay's phoned me a few times about it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Just wondering why it happened without any consultation.
For sure, yeah.
Just a question, if, like you said, if that paving gets delayed and we're doing paving next year, do we re-tender it as one complete project then? Because then you're doing many more miles of road. Just a thought. You can probably get a cheaper price.
Yeah, so as of
Or is
right now,
that-
they do have some progress claims into us. They have completed a substantial amount of crushing as well as crack sealing. So there's a fair amount of work that's been done already, and they've been paid for. We do have bonds for finishing up the job or protecting ourselves if they don't come back next year. But I'll have to look at the legalities of them being this far in and what our
Well, even
responsibility.
if you're moving into next year's project, if you could somehow get them to tie into that next one too.
Yeah, and
I
fa-
mean, it
well,
makes
also,
sense, right?
well, yeah,
Same
the
concept.
tender for next year's job, we are going to have out substantially earlier than we did this year. We're looking at really right after the budget, it should be out. So we'll have a better timeline on where they're at, and depending on whether if they can get in there early or not. But yeah, like I say, through the chair, we have a substantial amount of crushing that they've stockpiled that we've paid for already. So
Okay.
I'm not sure if that will work in anyone else's favor for that either. So
My other question is symbiotic. Is there any indication of approval from Alberta Environment?
yeah, so we met with Symbiotic late last week, just get an update. I mean, as far as environment, we haven't got a feedback or a response from environment on. Basically, they're still setting up a meeting. There is still testing to be done where they're at right now. They still, like, part of the approval was the water quality-based effluent study that needed to be done as well. That all has to be completed still before they can make an application into environment. So they're still not ready to actually formally submit to environment on that one. But environment is aware. Correspondence has gone back and forth with developer and them on what they're expecting to see recently.
Any other questions? I guess just the one, we got that letter from Joe, he's the manager at Canada Malting. I sent that to all, we did talk about that at our committee of the whole meeting, I think.
Yep.
You'd seen that?
I did,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, just so everyone's seen it. There's no other questions? Motion to accept? All in favor? Carried.
Mr. Chairman, before you proceed on, so the question on the STIP, Mike is going to maybe discuss that a little bit when we talk about budget at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
If I give him a call and updated him on.
He's looking at it?
Your request. So.
Reviewing
Okay.
it, yes.
Okay, so right now we have the road program, construction, paving, and seal coat plans.
Yeah, if you don't mind, that'd be great.
I have one question for you on the road program.
Yep.
On your 2020 construction. On the bottom of it, 27, 25, 17, and 26, 25, 17, there's 2 miles there. The rationale for those two, I have never ever, I got thinking about this again the other day, I've never got anybody talking to me about that, but I do in that same area, that one east of 19 and east, or west of 17 and west of 20. And that little chunk up on the north that we've been talking about for 2 years into Bishops. Is there any possibility of moving that one that you've got there for Township Road 254, moving that into 2030?
Okay.
And putting that construction on west of 17, west of 20?
Okay. So just on the screen here. Pointer somewhere. So you're speaking of this Range Road 254, or Township 254?
Yeah.
So we have that as construction for 1.5 miles. Actually, sorry, it shows 2 miles here, but it should be 1.5 miles in 2020. We actually just purchased a gravel pit.
Well, that's what you're going to do, is you're going to build it to your gravel
That's
pit.
correct, yeah. We need to ensure that we had as part of the development permit process, we have to ensure that we have adequate access to that.
So I'm looking at that, looking
Yeah.
at wondering why in God's name.
A road to nowhere, right? Yeah, and it would be if we didn't have the gravel pit there, but it is, we're hopefully opening that up next year, late next year. We might have to delay it depending on the road here, but that's the reasoning behind that.
So I can't swap that one out for the other one.
We definitely need that one built, yeah.
That's what you're telling me.
Mike, and are you done?
Not quite.
Oh,
So that other one, are we going to ever do anything with that 2 miles and that quarter? Because that affects 5 different landowners up in there, right on the east side of the lake. Yeah, you're. Right, well, this here, this 2 miles and this half mile, and a quarter mile. Oh, wrong way. Yeah. 2 miles and this quarter or half mile of whatever it is into Bishops, because they still have no access other than what they're trying to get across this lake. And that keeps washing out. So somewhere we have to do something with that somehow. Drives me crazy with environment, but that whole road. So anyways.
Yeah, so through the chair, we can add it on the later years if you like. We have discussed this with the landowner, and I think there's a conversation between the two of them, which we looked at a cost estimate for doing this road, and it was substantial for the environmental aspect of it alone, right? To access 1 or 2 parcels, it wasn't deemed essential, and that's why it isn't on the road program right now. We did discuss it with the landowners, and there is a conversation that could be had there, but hasn't been had yet between the 2 landowners for an easement between the operators there. So both parties are aware of that. Why the conversation hasn't happened yet, I'm not sure. But that's looking at the grand scheme of it, that's the better option. One party is open to negotiation, and until that falls apart, I think we should stay out of it.
No, 250.
No,
Range Road?
I think it's 175.
It's Range Road 175.
Yeah.
North of 252. Township Road 252. It's on 254, actually. That whole 2 1/4. But anyway, yeah, okay. Reasonable, makes sense. Okay.
So through the chair, we can address that over the year here and see if anything doesn't happen, we can readdress it at the next year's budget time. Okay.
While we're on roads, county, some road stabilization work with Magnum
Yes.
Cement. So I'm just trying to figure where is this at, and like how does it look like? Does it look like it's going to work?
Yeah, so, sorry, I should have updated that it kind of just came about. Okay. Great. So yeah, we're in discussions with a contractor the last few weeks here. There's a road that we've been looking at stabilizing we were going to add some lime to it this year. It's been a real problem up in Division 6. I believe it's Division 6, yeah. So right off of the 840 here, there's a hilltop here. Where am I? Yeah, so there's a hilltop right here that we were looking at repairing. We have, instead of stabilizing it with lime, we had a consultant or a contractor approach us with this new technology, a cement stabilization, basically, through this company. So we were given a good price to try it out, basically. So we brought them on last week, and it looks like it'll turn out pretty well. Time will tell, but we're trying a few of these new technologies, trying to see what it works, especially in hilltops like this where we have major soil problems. Gravel staying on the road is a real issue up there, so that's...
I think it's the same stuff Rocky V is using past Bruce Lakes on that, where they chip seal that road. I saw it where they tore it down, they put a concrete dust or whatever down there and wet it down, and then they built it up.
Okay.
I've seen it used in quite a few spots.
Yeah, I think they just, through the chair, it came from Vulcan County. They did a couple miles down there. So they're kind of bouncing around the communities, trying to see what the soil, different soil types are going to alter with the end results. But it was a good location to try this test pilot and see if it works very well.
Any other questions?
One question. Thanks for throwing those 4 miles on the 2025. But I was just curious, what's the maximum for short distance road repair? Short project road repair?
So through the chair, we've actually eliminated the short road program this year.
Okay.
We just have a road construction, a paving, and seal coat are our 3. So there is no minimum or maximum for road requests.
I could be asking for too much, and don't hesitate to tell me no or to tell me other things. Not you, Scott. But from the correction line, the 2 miles that we threw on there, north on 220, would there be any way to bump that up? Just because how bad it is in the spring? Like, if we can't, no worries. I know it's a very rough road, and we either have to up the grading on that road in the spring, or, which is fine, either or. It would just, that's 6 years of heavy grading.
Right. So through the chair, as far as priority setting, we did put this as a lower priority as of right now, opposed to some of the other roads. Nothing saying that we can't reevaluate that. It definitely won't make it in the next 2 years. Yeah. So because of that, this time next year we can also reevaluate and move wherever roads we want. That's more of a committee. Well, we can have a discussion here, but like I say, it won't affect any of our design in the next couple of years here. So it's not going to matter if a 2022 turns into 2021. But by this time next year, we should be aware of what our 2-year project list would be. So at the earlier onset next year, we can definitely look at moving it up.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah, I got a few.
Okay.
So just for council, so they're aware, I did I'll just go through a couple of changes. I won't go through the whole road plan again, but I just want to make you aware that, so we actually had, let's see if I can get this map here. So we had, as of 2019 construction, we had 10 miles proposed right from Ardnode South Road, right over to La Alta, and then down south 2 miles. Truthfully, we cannot fit that into our budget for next year, the 10 miles on top of the current county road program. So we've scaled that back to 4 miles. Now, the most essential 4 miles is this eastern portion here. So we've taken those 6 miles off for now, and we'll look at adding them in the future if it's deemed necessary. We did the same thing with Range Road 205 here. So that is, I believe, 2020. We have that for contracted services. Both these are contracted jobs, and we had 10 miles same way there. So basically, we took off the south 4 miles. So we have from Fire Guard Road, Township 250, right up to 564 is the construction that we're going to do on those. Those are the essential 6 miles that we need to add on here. Just looking at budgetary constraints, it wasn't going to fit with 10 miles contracted a year. It's expensive programs here, so we had to scale back a little bit.
Okay.
So those are the two major changes. Like I say, everything on the sheets here, I took all the comments from council and either added them, changed them around. 194 is now moved and swapped. And I believe those are the major changes on the road program. If there's any questions on that.
Just for clarification, so the north boundary of Lyalta is not going to be in the foreseeable future. I just have to let them know.
For sure, yeah, and
There'll be
as of right
questions
now,
asked, yeah, 'cause I thought- And I'm really okay with that because I don't think it's a high traveled road. It's more dust control issues that they have, and we already look after that anyways. And if there is going to be any development there, the developer will fix that.
potential.
Any other questions? Motion to accept the road program. All in favor? Carried. And request for decision, OH&S policy update. Any questions?
I'll make a motion that Wheatland County approve the harassment prevention policy and the respiratory protective equipment code of practice in order to be compliant with the recent changes to occupational health and safety legislation, Bill 30, effective June 1, 2018.
Okay. Any questions?
Just a question to Alan. When it says here that we received an order from Alberta Environment, is that all the municipalities did that, or were we amiss on something in there?
The order from, it wasn't an Alberta Environment, I don't think. Occupational Health and Safety. There was an investigation that was undertaken, and that's the results of the investigation. So, were all municipalities included? I don't believe so, no. So further to that, we've also requested a transportation audit done, not from Alberta Transportation, but from a contracted service, just to make sure that we're complying with our audit requirements under the Transportation Act. Scott knows all about that. So we had an audit done 3 years ago, and we didn't pass. So we had to do a lot of work to get it up to snuff. So I just want to make sure. So we put that on a cycle every 2 years. We do a review of that. So we're trying to do that with a lot of our, as the legislation changes too, we're trying to keep up with it. So, and I say try because sometimes it's hard, but.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we move on, before I forget, Ellen just gave me a bill here from the Rocky Ford Community Center for $225. And that was for the dining room and kitchen part of the community center. I believe that was the same, that was for, I don't know what the date, oh, rental, September 11th. That was the date of our fire committee meeting. So we have a bill and we don't have any authorization to pay it. So I'm looking for a motion to pay the bill.
Somebody sent us the bill.
Rocky Ford for the hall that we had a meeting there for the fire on the September the 11th.
They didn't
Just
want
a,
it here.
just a question, do we get charged for when we have the joint villages meetings? Do we get a bill for that?
No.
There's only one thing that. It could be that the, like our hall is owned and run by the Ag Society. So even if you're a group from Carsland, you still have to rent the hall. It's to support the hall, but I don't know about this letter.
Do we get charged when we use Gleason Community Hall? Town halls or anything like that?
My question is, originally this meeting, that meeting was supposed to be held in Standard. That's where it was. Was there something wrong with that location, or was it a request made to hold it in Rocky Ford? Okay, so it was, so we moved it to Rocky Ford.
Who booked the hall then? Did our staff do it? Rocky Ford booked the hall? And there was no notification there'd be charges or anything like that? Okay. Is it? I just, being that we've done other joint villages things there, we could have done it here for no charge. And we did, in my opinion, it was at the discretion, the community wanted it there. And that was the request made, so and I'm not comfortable paying that bill.
Wasn't the community, it was the fire associations as a whole, so what Donna said is true. It's a community hall, so. You're, whatever way the motion goes, I can see there's some contention here where these meetings are being held. There's one tomorrow night. I'm thinking that should be a topic of discussion, get clarification for this council. $225.
I totally see the point. Like, I think it's frustrating that it wasn't known up front, but I actually support paying the bill. And the rationale is that this is public consultation, in my mind, not necessarily public, but consultation of associated groups that we need to work with on this bylaw. And because it's our bylaw, I see it as our responsibility for funding the meeting space. And I recognize that we could have done it here kind of for free, but there are expenses if we have it here as well, like indirect expenses if we open up our building as well, so. I will put a motion on the floor that we pay the bill to Rocky Ford Community Association.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is defeated. Okay. Well, I'm thinking we're done here, except for the Wheatland County representatives before lunch. Okay. Let's do that then. Margaret can stay.
Through the chair, just on that last motion, just a little, your meeting is when, tomorrow?
Welcome. And we'll go straight to the 11:30 presentation, 3.2A, safety audit. No vests?
So I'll start it off with, this is our annual safety audit. This is an internal audit, and it was conducted by our audit team. Yeah, you guys can just sit there if you want, Suzanne. I know you guys are usually, when Suzanne comes in, she presents up here. In the past, I've presented it. I talked to the audit team who are here, and they're comfortable presenting to council, so be gentle. So I'm going to introduce the auditors who were involved in this. Leon DeFore, Suzanne Hayes, Mackenzie Soltis, and our safety auditors, Natalie Campbell. So I'll let you take it away.
Oh, there we go. Good morning, everybody. You guys are like way ahead of schedule, so. Yeah, so this is our audit team. So once a year, we step away from our regular duties and we conduct a health and safety audit on our health and safety system at the county. And as Alan said, this is Natalie, our new health and safety officer. And so as a result of the audit, Natalie developed an action plan, which you all are going to have a copy of, and to implement some of our findings. So in the agenda package that you guys got, you got the summary of the health and safety audit. It's much more comprehensive than that. We just picked a key strength and suggestion for improvement from each element that we studied. It's composed of 8 elements that we evaluated and scored as part of the review of our entire health and safety system. And then we gave it a score, as you can see on the summary, which these guys will go into the score and what we got on each element. So then the municipality, us, we submit the audit to AMSA for a quality assurance review. That's the Alberta Municipal Health and Safety Association. And the audit results and the auditor's work and methodology are given a grade on the quality of the auditing. And we have to justify how we marked every question on the audit. And so before we get into the results, I wanted to explain to you about why we do the audit in the first place. So this is a partnership. We're a member of a partnership. The Partners in Injury Reduction. It's a joint project of Alberta Labour, Workers' Compensation Board, and employers, which are represented by one of Alberta's 13 certifying partners. So for municipalities, the certifying partner is AMSA. And private sector, it's different. You may be familiar with that. So AMSA is authorized to issue an employer a certificate of recognition, known as a CORE. So a CORE is, having a valid CORE certifies that the employer's health and safety management system has been evaluated by a certified auditor and meets the Partners in Injury Reduction standards. Having a well-implemented health and safety management system leads to a reduction in workplace losses, injuries, and illness, and helps municipalities obtain discounts from the WCB. So in order to obtain a CORE, you have to have a good health and safety management system, and you have to demonstrate that by passing an external audit every 3 years and an internal audit in each of the next 2 calendar years. So this year we did our internal audit. We audited ourselves. At least one person on staff has to take the WCB's Return to Work seminar, which is like disability management, so we've met that criteria. Employer must fulfill its obligation to provide external peer auditors as needed. So that's us. Since Wheatland County obtained its CORE in 2005, we've conducted external audits on the town of High River, the town of Banff, town of Drumheller, Starland County, and we've been audited by several municipalities such as town of Sylvan Lake, town of Drumheller. And the audit is very comprehensive that I will leave to these folks to get into actually the details of this year's audit. So I'll turn it over to Leon.
Good morning, Alice.
Okay. Good morning. I'll speak a little bit on our audit scope and our audit standards. The audit scope was an organization-wide, including 12 out of 29 of the county's sites were visited for our observation review. These 12 sites are randomly chosen. Observations of these sites are done to confirm that the responses from interviews and our documentation reviews are evident at each of these sites. A total of 29 interviews were also conducted. That included seasonal laborers, every level of employee, senior management, and the CAO. Excuse
excuse me. Our audit standards with AMSA require an 80% overall score with no less than 50% in each of the 8 elements to pass and maintain our core and our PIR. The audit's final score was 86%. Our audit team is also assessed on our skills to conduct an unbiased audit through AMSA's quality assurance program. While needing an 80% score to pass this, our audit team was marked 98% this year. And that's about all I have for the audit scope and the standards, and I'll turn it over to Mackenzie to talk about the 8 elements.
Good morning. So I'll go through element by element, kind of outlining our comments and suggestions and strengths and whatnot. And if at any point you have any questions, just feel free to stop me and I can answer. So starting with element 1, which is management, leadership, and organizational commitment. So this touches on the policy, the availability, and how it's communicated, the health and safety responsibilities, management participation in safety meetings, resources, etc. So a suggestion would be management should be reviewing the health and safety policy with their workers on a regular basis. Doing so would expand their knowledge of their team so they can proactively strive for safety excellence. We also suggest that it's recommended that the employees are evaluated on their health and safety performance during their annual performance review. It would ensure compliance in the health and safety management system, as well as identifying areas where the employee has shown positive, safe work practices. That's really important as well. We are very good in this area of having employees that have a strong understanding of their responsibilities that are assigned by the employer and OH&S. And this, of course, makes for a safer work environment. Element 2 is hazard identification and assessment. So when we're talking about a formal hazard assessment, it's a document that the health and safety officer, the employees, managers, they work on kind of in collaboration. And it's a formal document that states what jobs are associated with, or tasks are associated with each job, the applicable hazards to those tasks, and then controls that are in place to mitigate those hazards. So this is the formal document when we're talking about the formal hazard assessment. So a suggestion would be we need to review the formal hazard assessments on a regular basis with the key employees who have received training to identify potentially new hazards and ensure the controls are in place, and then this would also prevent complacency. A definite strength is that we noted that there are a high number of hazard assessments. Almost probably every staff has one completed, and it's an individual assessment per staff, not just per job type. So that's really important. There's also part of this element is also a field level inspection, and so that is when you're going out to a new site, you complete a field level hazard assessment that day, noting the weather and different factors that are at play, and this is above and more current, and it's in addition to your formal hazard assessment. So we also noted that those are being done on a frequent basis, which is really good, and that's very important. Element 3 is the hazard controls. So these also play into the formal hazard assessments. The controls, when we talk about them, there's 3 different types, so PPE and administrative and engineering. So PPE is pretty obvious. I'm not wearing them today, but pink steel-toed boots would be PPE if I have to go down to the shop. Administrative could be a sign on the door saying make sure to lift the bay, you know, because we don't want exhaust and stuff in our shop, so make sure to lift the bay doors. And then engineering control, could be like our high-low desks. So it's for ergonomics. It's a physical thing or a physical barrier. So with this element, it's hazard control. So through review of the formal hazard assessments, it was evident that every hazard had 1 or more controls assigned to mitigate the risk of incident, illness, or injury. Regardless of the risk factor, high or low, every hazard had an identified control. So this is really important that nothing was missing there. We do suggest, though, that everybody needs to be aware of the disciplinary policy as it relates to health and safety. If through the annual performance review or an alternative method, awareness was brought to the enforcement of hazard controls, and all employees would be held accountable for their health and safety responsibilities. Part of this element as well touches on preventative maintenance. And so we, of course, we know that preventative maintenance occurs. We know that oil changes occur, and if a windshield has a crack in it, it gets replaced, et cetera. But just through our review of documentation, there was nothing on paper that we could find that touched on a preventative maintenance schedule. So we have a suggestion there to get something in paper, policy-wise. But other than that, it is evident that controls are being used on a day-to-day basis, so that's great. Element 4 is ongoing inspections. The key employees that are involved in the formal inspections have all received training. And I guess I should back up for a second. Formal inspections, when we indicate that, that's when the health and safety officer, management, et cetera, goes out to the different sites and does their walk around with their little checklist, and they check things off and they note deficiencies, et cetera. So the key employees, that are involved in that process are and do have training, which is great. We do make a suggestion that based under the assignment of responsibility, it assigns management and supervisor levels the requirement to participate in the inspections to some capacity. And the inspection policy has the addition of assigning responsibility to workers to participate. We just think that a directive or an updated policy would simplify this process and just add clarity to that thing to ensure that managers and supervisors are actually participating. Not that they aren't, but just that there is more participation. And element 5 is on the qualifications, orientations, and training. And there is a comprehensive employee orientation process, and it highlights all critical health and safety topics, which is great. All staff must participate in the orientation prior to start of duties, or if their duties change if they move jobs. This applies to, I just said that, new returning or transferred employees. This is the first line of defense in keeping employees safe. Any worker who must also temporarily step into a supervisory role must receive training for this, and we noted that that isn't quite the case. So we have a suggestion there for everybody to receive training for that. But overall, there is a good orientation process, and everybody, for the most part, they follow that training process very well. And there is a high level of safety overall. Element 6 is emergency response. Emergency response plans have been developed for each site, and they contain possible emergency response procedures applicable to each site. And this is really important, as opposed to having just like an umbrella of an emergency response plan, or an ERP. Each site is different. Each site will experience different dangers and different things that might occur. So each ERP is specified to that site, and that's really important. Here, we might not necessarily experience a rollover, but out and about on the road, they might. So that's really important that that's in that site's ERP. And then that also kind of streamlines the process. Instead of having a binder with 50 different ERPs in it, you're only looking potentially at 20 or 30, which is good. We did notice that drills aren't being done as frequently as they need to be. A drill being either a tabletop or real-time, fire drill. Although today wouldn't be so nice to do a fire drill, they still need to be done. So it could be a real time, or it could be just a tabletop discussion. And we noted that these need to increase in frequency, and it needs to be documented. And element 7 is incident investigation. Currently, there is a comprehensive and user-friendly process. It's a very easy to follow form. It's quite simple to fill out. It takes just a quick minute, and it really enables staff to just report, and they're not afraid of using a form, which would deter them potentially from reporting an incident. So they actually will fill it out and they will submit it. So that's good. It's simple and user-friendly. But under the assignment of responsibilities, management is expected to review investigation reports. Review of the completed investigation reports brings awareness and incidents affecting their workers and controls implemented to keep employees safe and prevent reoccurrence. It's recommended that the incident investigation policy is revised and the process updated to allocate responsibility to alternate staff members, so it's not just all on the HSO or health and safety officer's plate. Allocate that responsibility to somewhere else, and then have a final sign-off when the corrective action is completed and in place. Having somebody else follow through and not always being on the HSO's plate is really important, because then they can sign off on it and they can follow through. The HSO is involved in every portion of the health and safety program. So the final oversee of the documents and whatnot, but it would help to have management also involved in that process. And then it would also ensure that the corrective actions are being implemented in a timely manner. For the most part, a lot of our investigations are completed very, very quickly, and that is very important. But yeah, it's just a final sign-off that needs to happen. And the final element is program administration. The health and safety system is evaluated annually, like Suzanne stated, as part of our audit process. And maintaining our core demonstrates our organization's commitment to improving our own system and exceeding the standards set out by certifying partners. Something I meant to touch on earlier is we do in so many areas exceed what the minimum standards are. Even for first aid, for example, legislation states, I believe at the time of the audit, that there needed to be minimum 4 staff trained with standard first aid and 1 with advanced emergency first aid. We have 99 staff with standard first aid and 8 with advanced and emergency first aid. So we over exceed a lot of standards. That's just one of them. But at minimum, we match these standards for the auditing process, and we demonstrate that by maintaining our core. We suggest that all managers, all staff are held accountable for implementing the health and safety management system as per the assignment of responsibilities in the health and safety policy. Upholding such responsibilities would provide support for all other levels, confirm commitment to the system, and demonstrate leadership by example. And of course, documentation confirms that the action plan is in place from prior years. And Natalie, in a minute, will touch on our upcoming one. And yeah, action items from prior year, a lot of them are in progress or already completed. And it's really important that we finalize that action plan and do complete the things that we say that we're going to. This really closes the gap on the health and safety management system. So overall, like Leon and Suzanne had said, we did pass, we had 86%. There's not one element that we failed on. We were all in, 80s or 90s for most of them. So that's really good. We're doing good. And then I'll pass it over to Natalie so she can touch on the 2018 and 2019 action plan.
Okay, good morning. So I'm going to discuss the 2018-29 action plan. So basically this action plan is developed off of all the deficiencies that Mackenzie just touched on. So as the auditors are doing their audit, they have a really strict set of credentials that they have to be looking for and find. So if they find an area where maybe we're lacking a little bit, they just make a note. And then it was my job to review all of their field notes, their formal executive summary, and then come up with how are we going to move forward and improve our safety program for the next coming year. So if it's okay with you, did you guys want to read through the action plan or have me read through it with you? Or you can have time to look on it on your own, or it's up to you. I can read through it if you'd like. Okay. Okay. So again, it's based off of elements the same way the entire audit is organized. So for element 1, we would look through what were the key points they were trying to find, what areas did we maybe not meet those goals. So when I develop goals in general, I use the SMART acronym. So they're specific, measurable, agreed upon by the team here. They're realistic and they're time bound. So it gives us a really firm deadline of how are we going to meet these goals and when. So for element 1, we're going to review our health and safety policy with all of our staff at minimum annually. So it was identified that it's managers' responsibility and our directive to make sure that we're going through these policies and procedures with our staff annually. So that was one of the things we gave. I allotted it the full year to go through, so we'll make sure everyone gets encompassed in that 1 year. Ensure that an employee health and safety evaluation method exists and is implemented. So Mackenzie touched on that. We do an annual employee review. So during that time, we're going to take and add health and safety to that and say, how is an individual performing in our association? Are you being safe? Are you upholding the you wanting to say company, but the county's safety policy and program? And then also we're going to ensure that our current health and safety legislation is available at all of our work sites. So for that one, I just assigned myself to do that because I go around quarterly to all of our work sites and I can easily make sure that gets done. So that one I gave a little less time to get done because I can help with that one, so that was good. So for element 2, that's our hazard assessments. We were ensuring that the key employees are adequately trained in conducting these formal hazard assessments. So for management and then with help from myself, we can identify key employees and ensure that they're receiving the AMSA Leadership for Safety Excellence training. So that's going to teach them how we can go through hazard assessments and really identify what we need to be identifying, and then how we can show the employees why it's important and how it all lays out nicely so they understand it as well as the people with training understand it. So that one we've given until January 1st because that course can be administered online, so it shouldn't take us too long to have that in place. Also from element 2, we're ensuring that the target of our annual review for formal hazard assessments is met. So right now it's tracked on a training matrix so we can see who's coming due for renewal. And it'll just be a process of making sure everybody gets that renewal done on time. So that one, I again assigned it a year because everybody comes due at different times for that review, but just so you know, that's how it'll be done. Element 3, that was the preventative maintenance. So we're going to develop a directive and schedule for preventative maintenance for our vehicles, our facilities, our equipment, even tools, anything that needs to be calibrated. So we do all of these things right now. It's just a matter of having them on a formalized schedule. We can see when they're due and make sure we're upholding it that way as well. So that one I assigned March 1st as a deadline for that one. So give us a little bit of time to find absolutely every piece of equipment, vehicle, tool, facility, and make sure it's all tracked. Element 4, it's our inspection policy. So we're going to update our inspection policy to include specific involvement expectations for all levels of the organization, and then identify the frequency at which they're required. So the auditors identified that maybe management and supervisors aren't on the inspections as frequently as staff members. So when I go to a site, a field site, the field staff are always there, which is great. So we're just going to try and grab a few more management involvement to come with us and see, you know, what are we finding, what are we doing, and just have them have their say in that step as well. So for that one, again, given a March 1st deadline, so a little bit more time for that one. For element 5, we're going to develop a formal competency assessment program that's documented and then kept in the employee file. So I'll work with management, supervisors, and foremen to develop this competency assessment program. So basically what we're saying is when we're onboarding someone, what's the steps that they're going to go through so that we know they're adequately trained, they have the information they need, and they have the skills that they need to do the job that they've been assigned. So especially becomes important when we have people that operate heavy equipment and things like that. So that one we've assigned a deadline of March 1st as well. For element 6, this is when we were talking about the emergency response and doing drills and stuff like that. So we're going to develop a drill and review process for monitoring the effectiveness of our plan. So it's one thing to have a plan in place, but then if you're not testing that it works, you don't actually know if it works in the event of an emergency. So we're going to try and move forward with that and try and up the amount of drills we're going to do per year this year. So I've given a shorter deadline on that one because I felt it was important to make sure these emergency response plans work for our sites as soon as we can. So that was one aspect of that element. For element 6, again, we're also going to make sure that the emergency drills are conducted at a minimum annually for every site in the county. And the audit identified that we have 29 sites, so we're looking for 29 drills this year. So for that one, I gave the full year again because we'll do them kind of on a monthly basis, try and hit a couple sites per month. Element 7, we're ensuring that management is involved with the investigation process. So right now, employees will come, there's an incident, they do their due diligence. I generally write the investigation report with them, and then it does go to senior management for acknowledgement, sign off, and then to their supervisor. So we're just kind of need to add maybe one more review in there. So if it's their supervisor reviewing it, it would also be their immediate manager as well. So that was one that I thought was a little bit easier to implement. And then make sure that management's reviewing every incident that occurs in their department as well. So that one I gave a shorter deadline of January 1st as well. And then finally, for element 8, it was to ensure management's accountable for the implementation of the health and safety system. So we're just going to review management's assignment of responsibilities under our health and safety policy and ensure that they're aware of their role in the implementation of the health and safety system. And through that, they can implement adding health and safety to our annual review process to make sure every level of the organization really understands what their roles and responsibilities are going forward. So for this, the overall goal always is to improve our health and safety management system, improve our safety culture at Wheatland County, and then ultimately we'll, through that, improve our audit score going forward for next year. And this is always only done if every level of the organization is involved. So that's our goal for 2018 and 2019. Oh yeah, sorry. And then Suzanne will conclude.
Does anybody have any questions?
I have one.
Okay.
Under the 5, the competency assessment program, this kind of falls, I'm thinking about it with the fire departments too. People that have had years of experience running a piece of equipment, or firefighters that have done years, is there a way to, instead of making it a formal program where they have to go through and say, yes, I can run this piece of equipment, so they've done it for years, they know what they're doing, is there a way to grandfather them in or something like that? I know that's always a bone of contention, so.
Yeah, so competency assessment programs are not legislated for heavy equipment right now. So because of that, we can actually develop our own procedure. And so usually what I've seen done is someone in management or someone, like you said, with years of experience is going to be part of an assessment team. So if they're saying, yes, I know that so-and-so has worked here X many years, and the management would sign off that they're competent to do the job that they've been assigned.
So since I've been an auditor, which has been 10 years now, we've had always 8 elements, and now AMSA has decided that there should be 2 more elements. So this must speak to the culture at this point in the world, but they want to add an element for joint work site health and safety committees and health and safety representatives. That's a really long name. So we've had a safety committee since I think 2003, but now it's going to be scrutinized how the committees run and what the committee does. So that's going to be a new element. And other parties in or at or in the vicinity of the work site. So they're thinking of contractors, visitors. So we're going to have to examine, we don't know what these elements are going to look like, what kind of questions we're going to have to answer or who we'll have to interview, but those are 2 new elements that we'll be adding to the audit. And that's everything.
Can I just add one more quick thing? Also for next year, 2019, internal audits, you've never been able to fail. You can always get a lesser score and resubmit and revise and whatever to bump your score up. But starting in 2019, an internal audit, which is what the cycle just was, we can fail. And a fail, I believe, is less than 60%. 60? Or less than 80%. And the consequence to that would be us losing our core. So not that that's the focus of losing our core, but of course the focus is safety for workers, but that is another reality going forward that we have to consider as well. So thank you.
Any other questions? So is that every element has to achieve a 80 or is a total of 80? Okay. Any other questions? Well, thank you for your presentation. Motion to accept as information. Donna, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we've got a few minutes left here. We can do our in-camera session now. Need a motion to go on camera.